Last week, Colin Brewer posted and asked a pretty cool question. He says, I love using room mics to bring life to the drum tracks and offset some of the painful isolation of close mics. A frequent issue I run into with room mics, though, is the kick drum. While the close mic usually has a wonderfully tight sound, sometimes the room mic tracks end up capturing a lot of the mid-range mud. When you start to mix this in with the kit, the kick drum starts to sound muddy and can compete with the snare drum's fundamental. Does anyone else have this problem, and are there any creative solutions other than record it right in the first place, since that's sometimes not an option?
I can attest to that. I've run into that issue before.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I get sent stuff recorded by all sorts of people, and sometimes it's super on point, sometimes it's not. And obviously, in recording, I spend a ton of effort to isolate the kick drum from the room mics by doing things like kick tunnels and stuff like that. But sometimes you just can't do it because you're getting sent whatever you get sent.
Yeah.
It's funny, we struggle so hard to get a strong, loud kick signal, but for some reason it comes out perfectly clear, almost to a nuisance in the room mics often.
Right. Okay, so let's pretend it's just one pair of overheads, and then we've got all these room mics. So let's mute all but one of the pairs of room mics, and then we can kind of start with this concept from there. This one should have a ton of kick, intentionally, actually. Yeah.
Yep.
Ooh,
I like that.
that sounds awesome.
You almost want to like take a section of the song and just kind of like just only use that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just to give everyone an understanding of what we did when we tracked this, because we actually tracked this session, we did do multiple sets of room mics, and it's because we wanted to have a control of the distance. All right, so Kenny, what would be your first step here in managing this?
Like I said before, first step, high pass.
All right, why don't you guide us through how you'd like to do it?
Pull up a high pass filter on that. And then basically you can unmute the track, and you can hit play, and you can move it until maybe you take some of that kick drum out, but don't lose hopefully too much of the low end.
Okay. Let's take a listen to it. I'm going to start a 12 dB octave filter. I feel like that's pretty good to start.
That got super clean right there.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what? Now solo that room mic so we can hear it for sure. And bypass.
Yeah. What frequency are you at there? Okay.
Okay. So that's a good start.
I like it.
Yeah, that's a potential fix. What if it's not good enough? So what's the next step?
Okay. Well, there's a good number of people who've suggested a really interesting one, which would be putting a multi-band compressor on there, triggered off the kick.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
You could take out just the low end there. So if you want to try doing that, that's actually a pretty easy one. Why don't we throw on maybe the FabFilter Pro multiband, because I know you love that guy.
Yeah.
It is a good plugin.
You're so excited. You're so excited.
So excited.
Okay, cool. Let's set it to roughly the same frequency range that we were saying we were having a problem with. So maybe 200 and below.
Sounds good.
Okay, cool. And then we're going to want to set it to an external input.
And
So,
expert view, external.
yep. And then we're going to want to pick some send to put the kick drum on
Okay.
and send to this.
Okay, so probably wise to try and use a kick drum signal in the actual session, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're saying.
Use a send to go over to it.
Sounds good. Go over here, bus it. We'll use 33 because apparently that's the first one in.
Sure.
I don't know why.
All right. So let's set this pre-fade just so we can listen to it easily.
All set.
Yep.
Cool. So let's take a listen to just the room mic to hear what this is doing to the room mic.
Okay, here we go.
Let's set the ratio even higher. Let's set the range even higher, so it's more than just that amount of. All right, cool. So let's while we're listening to this, let's bypass it and unbypass to hear what it's doing.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly helping it.
The reason I like it is because it's like we're adding some character to the actual low end to give it like a groove with the actual track. With the filter, we're
Right.
stuck in the static kind of filtering. You know what I mean? Like it just feels completely controlled and gone. But this gives it some groove actually, because we have control over the attack and release. I'm actually kind of
Right.
really digging this.
Yeah, yeah.
So you're using Pro Tools or another DAW. The concept is simple. You you tap one of your signals, like let's say a kick drum, that's in the actual mix already, something that's occurring at the same time as this kick drum that you're trying, this room mic that you're trying to crush. Kick drum is there. It's easy. It's got a lot of impact. Great. Set up a send. Make sure it's pre-fader so that you can actually isolate the room like we're doing. And then just make sure that you have your fader set to 0 or unity. Inside the plugin, inside of Fab, inside of Pro Tools, the actual input for that is set right here. So you just find that send, lock it up, name it, keep it organized. And then within FabFilter, you have to make sure that you set the plugin to an external input. If you don't, then you're just going to be triggering, you're just going to be processing the information that's passing through the plugin, not reacting to the information that's coming in through the side chain.
Colin, I hope this was a good answer to your question. I know there's a million other things that can be done, but we're going to start with just these two.
Sounds great. Awesome, guys. Well, thanks for
Awesome.
watching. See you later.